of the ANC at the Jubilee Conference in 1937. They worked closely with the religious leaders, the Anglican priest, Reverend James Kalata, and Methodist minister, Reverend Z.R. Mahawane, who was elected the President General of the ANC for a second term, having served from 1924 to 27. This was indeed unity in action. That is why in our activities as the African National Congress and as the government will always invite the priest to be with us in whatever we're doing. As an opening remarks, allow me, Speaker of Parliament, the Chair of the AU, Dr. Nkosazana Zuma, the Marks family, the Kotane family, the representatives of the three spheres of government, the ministers, the leaders and the veterans, and the cadres of the alliance of the African National Congress, the South African Communist Party, the Congress of the South African Trade Unions, the representatives of the faith-based organizations, and of course the civil society, the representatives of the embassies, comrades, and compatriots. I'm Thulas Nxesi, the Minister of Public Works and the Program Director for this afternoon. Welcome to this memorial service, which has been convened to remember the contribution and celebrate the lives of Comrade Moses Kotane and Comrade JB Marks, who were affectionately known as Uncle JB and Malume Kotane. This service is possible because the President and the South African government heeded the pleas of the families to repatriate the mortal remains of these icons of our liberation struggle. On Sunday, the 1st of March, we received the remains of these comrades. In weighing up the significance of Comrade Kotane and Marks, we need to make a point that in their work and in their lives, these comrades embodied the unity of the ANC-led alliance with the SACP and the trade union movement. Their memory and this important occasion, of course, organized by government, but belongs to the alliance and to all the progressive people of South Africa. It's a bit disappointing that the attendance is like this. Of course, those who were organizing were of the assumption that people will be coming on their own without organizing transport. But we take this memorial service as just one of a series of the memorial services we are going to have in the different parts of this country. A number have been lined up next week in many of the provinces, including Gauteng in the different regions, right up to the funeral and even after the funeral. We think that the thousands of people who will be celebrating the lives of these heroes in those memorial services. But we have decided that given time, we must continue. We know that the workers, the timing of 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock is very bad for a number of workers. It's something which I think the organizers have overlooked, hoping that they are going to join us, but we must continue because it's on a Friday. When we say that the unity of the alliance remains paramount, and this is the only vehicle capable of deepening our national democratic revolution and delivering the real social and economic transformation, we speak with authority of the Comrade Marks and Kotane, and all those who went before, who forged this mighty alliance in the heat of the struggle. So as we set the context, we also need to understand that these comrades were part of the major international movement of the 20th century. The struggles against colonialism, against imperialism, against racism, against fascism, against oppression and exploitation in all its forms, and of course for a socialist alternative. There is a real sense that Comrades Marks and Kotane embodied the development of a complex theoretical understanding of our struggle, and that sophisticated evolution, or the evolution of that sophisticated strategy and tactics, which were to culminate in the overthrow, of apartheid and the establishment of the non-racial democracy in 1994, which all of us are enjoying today. Sadly, the comrades did not live to see the freedom for which they worked so hard. Today, then, we are here, comrades, to remember their contributions, lest we forget their supreme sacrifice. Comrades, we have programs, or you have programs with you, which we are going to follow. But from time to time, we will be amending this particular program. And I know that some of the speakers are not yet here, but we will continue with the speakers who are here. As I'm going to request the choir to give us an item, and I hope the choir has not been hired to perform 3 items or 5 items. So if it means it's more than what they've been hired for, we will pay for the extra which we'll be requesting. As we are preparing for the representative of SANCO and COSATU, can we request the choir to give us an item and see if the SANCO representative is here? Is the SANCO representative here? If the SANCO representative is not here, we will request the representative of COSATU to ascend the podium, because immediately after this item by the Gauteng choristers, we will give them to make their tribute. Thank you, choir.
Mandla obudala uzabalaza sekudala uzabalaza sekudala uzabalaza sekudala uzabalaza uzabalaza Moses Kotane Moses Kotane awulale ngokolo wena JB Marks awulale ngokolo wena sekudala uzabalaza sekudala uzabalaza uzabalaza umskotane Amanda. Thank you very much, Program Director, the Minister of Public Works, Comrade Tulas. I want to acknowledge both families, Kotane, the Marks family, ministers from government, deputy ministers, mayors. I want to acknowledge the leadership of the Alliance. I see that both the chairperson of the ANC, and I'm told she's the speaker today, the Treasurer General of the African National Congress are here, the South African Communist Party General Secretary and the first and the second Deputy General Secretaries and the veterans. I see that the Central Committee of the SACP is here. Leadership of COSATU, leadership of SANCO. As COSATU, we have been elated when we became aware that finally the mortal remains of our heroes were coming back home. We had to ask and task one of our best leaders in COSATU, the General Secretary of the National Union of the Mine Workers, Comrade Franz Baleni, more so because the leaders that are being brought back home have life with the mine workers in South Africa. The task was indeed carried through very, very well. We celebrate the coming back or the homecoming of our heroes, knowing that whilst many would have said they should have come back a long time ago, but as this organization, COSATU, whilst we respect and appreciate that, we're saying the timing for COSATU was perfect, because it reminds us what type of leaders our movement as a whole would have understood to be real leaders in particular those who embody the alliance as a whole. The coming home of these heroes for COSATU and the workers of our country is yet an opening after a closure of another chapter, but the opening of a new chapter, that indeed the unity we are working on remains very sacrosanct. It is something we cannot trade off with. We would have filled this hall if, and I would suggest that in the future, work with government on this program. We work quite closely so that we can ensure that workers whose work that is happening today belongs to them too can be part of these processes. Because it is a lesson for us to know that if you are a leader, it is possible to sacrifice everything. Sacrifice yourself, sacrifice your family in defense of the revolution. And you can lay your soul in another country. And you can die without selling out on the revolution. The challenge you are faced today is that it is possible to cancel out. We have learned these lessons out of these leaders. They are not the unsung heroes. They have been sung about for quite a long time. The stage we are at right now is that they have been brought back home, the country they went out to fight for. To the families as workers of South Africa, we appreciate, we will continue to be indebted to yourselves for the contribution you have made to the struggle of the workers of our country. We thank you very much.
We thank the President of COSATU. And indeed, the President of COSATU has just confirmed that Comrade Marks and Comrade Kotane were there at the birth of the trade union movement in South Africa. Moses Kotane, amongst others, in 1928 joined the Bakers' Union organized by the Communist Party. And these comrades have led in the South African Federation of the Non-European Trade Unions. Some of us will remember that JB Marks, amongst others, led the organization of the African Mine Workers' Union in 1941 and was elected the president at some stage of this powerful Council of the Non-European Trade Unions. And this is a comrade who led the great miners' strike of 1946, mobilizing some 400,000 African mine workers. Indeed, both comrades were instrumental in the formation of SACP, the South African Congress of Trade Unions in the 1950s. They built the mass worker organization even in conditions of illegality. Militant progressive trade unionism has a long history in this country. COSATU comrades, you are the heirs and the bearers of these legacy. Remember this unity, that it started long ago, preached by these heroes we're talking about today. Anisifakele ingoma. Phela ngitheni izoloko nisifakele scratch. Anifakeni ingoma. We are preparing because we are shortening our program. We are preparing to call the family members, those who have been appointed, to come and make the tribute. After this, thank you. At this stage, we're going to request the family representatives to come and pay their tributes. We are going to start with the Kotane family representative. And we've been given the name of Ambassador Sam Kotane. Animfagen ngayo noyana lo. Noyana. 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 Noyana.
Thank you very much, Program Director. With your permission, sir, may I take the liberty to plunge into my remarks. You and the two previous speakers having acknowledged the dignitaries comrades and friends gathered here this afternoon. Last Sunday, 1st March, was a very special day for us, the Kotane family. It was a day filled with both joy and sadness, as it marked a homecoming and a spiritual reconnection of Moses Mawani Kotane with his 103-year-old wife, Rebecca, and family. Malume, as Kotane was popularly known, went into exile in 1963 to continue the struggle against apartheid from outside South Africa. He died and was buried in Moscow some 36 years ago. Thus, the repatriation of his mortal remains to a free and democratic South Africa symbolizes victory for both him, Uncle JB, and the countless patriots who dedicated their lives to free this country of the bondage of apartheid. Some, like him, may not have lived long enough to realize the dream of a free South Africa. However, we cherish their legacy and selfless commitment in the fight to achieve a democratic dispensation, which all South Africans enjoy today. The return of Malume's remains brings full circle a life humbly began 105 years ago in a rural village in today's Northwest Province. My family would like to thank President Jacob Zuma for readily acceding to Makotane's request to have her late husband's mortal remains repatriated to South Africa. We also extend our deep gratitude to Minister Nathi Mthethwa and his department, including other government departments and agencies, for successfully implementing this project. We would like to thank Premier Mahumapelo for the support the Northwest Province has given to perpetuating the legacy of both Uncle JB and Malume in the province of their birth. In this regard, we also thank the Moses Kotane municipality and his home village in Pella. Needless to say, this project would not have been possible without the cooperation of the Russian authorities. Our deep gratitude goes out to the Russian government and the city of Moscow for facilitating the exhumation and repatriation process, which were professionally executed. Malume and Uncle JB were for a long time under the care and comfort of the Soviet authorities. We feel duty-bound to acknowledge and pay gratitude to the USSR. The support rendered our liberation movement also extended to providing excellent health care to Kotane and Marks when their health began to fail them. In this context, allow me to acknowledge the Afro-Asian Solidarity Committee for its support and solidarity during the liberation struggle. The two giants we are honoring today belonged in the bosom of the Tripartite Alliance. It is thus fitting to acknowledge and thank the African National Congress, the South African Communist Party, and the trade union movements for giving them space to operate over a period of 5 decades. They are gone, but hopefully their memory will forever be etched in the history of our liberation struggle. In closing, my family would like to thank Ambassador Mandi Simpahla and his embassy staff in Moscow for the sterling work they did in facilitating this whole process. Not until the Presidential Honor Guard slow-marched the two coffins to the hearses en route to the airport did it dawn on me that these two great sons of the soil were finally on their way home. This very act communicated the message that their lifelong struggle for a birthright had triumphed. We look forward to their reinterment and to the reinterment of Malume and Uncle JB in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this stage, we will call the representative of the Marks family, which is Mr. R. Marks, according to our programs. No, Yana. No, Yana. Dr. Nzimande, the communists, the African communists must understand that the people are in the church. Over to you, sir.
A very good afternoon to the family members of the Kotane family, as well as the Marks family, all ministers and presidential. I would like to start off by thanking the Marks family. For me, as the grandson of JB Marks, the privilege to represent the Marks family. It is definitely an honor standing up here, speaking on behalf of such legends, as I should put them. Ntate Kotane, as well as Uncle JB, has played a pivotal role towards our struggle. It brings me great gratitude to actually stand up here and speak on behalf of them, leaders who is being acknowledged after so many years. It was in 2005 or 6, I stand to correction, that my cousin Wakil was requested and sent on a journey, if I should put it, to repatriate the remains of Uncle JB, as well as in connection with the Kotane family, repatriate Mr. Kotane. It brings us great gratitude and closure from the family side to finally know that our legend, our uncle, grandfather, amongst many, has actually returned home. My grandmother feels that she's finally fulfilled her instruction from his late mother, Auntie Gladys Marks. My grandmother now feels closure and can definitely thank many parties who has played a pivotal role in this repatriation. Not to waste any much time, I would like to thank all the leaders who has played the role. Kosatu, Sanka, as well as Russia, who has taken these leaders under their wings. They have made them feel comfortable. They have made sure that they receive the presidential funerals which they did receive on their side. As youngsters today and youth of today, we will definitely ensure that the legacy of the Marks and Kotane family occurs. We will ensure that it continues and that we appreciate them as legends. If it were not for them, we would never have had the Cyril Ramaphosa's, the Jacob Zumas, Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu's. I exile them as gentlemen this afternoon. And therefore, I would like to enclose thanking the Kotane family once again. If it were not for you guys as a compass towards the Marks family, we would not be present here today. We thank Ma Kotane for finally writing that letter to Mr. Jacob Zuma. And therefore, in closing, once again, I would like to ask the Marks family to stand and let us applaud the Kotane family and all parties who has played a pivotal role in this repatriation. Thank you very much.
To both members of Kotane and the Marks family, today we acknowledge your sacrifice. Today we acknowledge your contribution to the struggle. We hope that the young ones, they will follow in the footsteps of their grand and the great-grandfather. They will live up to his values, to his vision. We thank you. We thank you for that. We are moving, ladies and gentlemen and comrades, with our program. We are going to call a friend and a veteran. After the decision to form Umkhonto weSizwe in 1961, Comrade Kotane played a major role in securing the military assistance from the Soviet Union. In his speech to the International Conference of the Communists and the Workers' Party held in Moscow in 1969, Comrade Marx argued that, and I quote, "There is no way to emancipation except that of the revolutionary armed struggle," unquote. Injalo Mapai. As veterans, you were tasked with translating the theory into practice. And indeed, we recognize your contribution. That is why, among the veterans who are here, we are requesting Ubabu Mchali as a friend to come and say something as a veteran in the struggle. Ubabu Stalin Mchali. Ozake Babu Mchali. Akaphakame ngengoma kuStalin. Ibambe wezinsizwa, ibambeni webafana, ibambeni wezinsizwa,
Yes, Joe. Good job. I see Malume Sanye when my first met when he was young. He came to Dar es Salaam, so we were with him in the camp for a very long time. but he belonged to a section of the army that was troublesome. Kwakubani section elikambe? Section 1. Section 6, I think. Yeah, something like that. But when I say troublesome, not troublesome in the sense that we see today, where ANC is being played around with. Friends, we are meeting here today to receive and say goodbye to two leaders of our revolution, Uncle JB and Comrade Kotane. Maybe it would be, I'm sure it would be safe to say, if they were not there, the struggle would have taken a longer time or would still be limping. But both of them were there, and they guided the struggle. They guided us in exile for many years. It was not an easy task for them. I remember at some stage in the camp, a famous ANC camp, Congo, the army was not ungovernable, but were very angry about something. I'm not going to mention it here. But were very angry about something. And came to the camp, and Duma Nogwe, Moses Mapida, I don't know who else was there. Because the camp was almost divided into two camps. There were Maoists, there were those who were Soviet supporters in the camp. It was bad. Maoists were very troublesome. Maybe they also say we were troublesome, I don't know. So they were invited to the camp to talk to us. We were small boys. We were very young at the time. They invited to come and talk to us. Malume was very tough, a strict disciplinarian, would tolerate no nonsense. They came to the camp to talk to us. Dumanowe started talking to us, and it was Malume followed Dumanowe. Very tough and a bit rough. And then after that, it was JB Marks, Uncle JB, who was very, not diplomatic, but strict, but he knew how to handle a situation like that one. He said, look, I know here in the camp, this was an ANC camp, we're all there under the flag of the ANC, though they were communists amongst us in the camp, but not declared because the party was still underground. So even in the camp, we remain underground. But we managed to do the party work there. Because we knew others. For instance, I knew Chris because we were together in the underground party congress in 1962, I think. So we met there. So I was not underground to him, and he was not underground to me. So we managed with Chris to form the discussion groups, or in the St. Benson cell from Alexandra. I don't know his real name, I only know just best. And there was also Don Nangu, or Nagu, from Port Elizabeth. He died in exile. So they managed to mend the situation. They talked to us, and after that, they left. They said, "This is you are soldiers. It's in the camp. If you decide to revive the communist branches here, you have no right to do that," Duma Nyoga said. Because it's ANC camp. But after Duma, it was Uncle JB who said, "No, I want to differ with Duma. That if they want to revive the Communist Party branches, they must do that. They are communists. Wherever they are communists. You don't become a communist when things are rosy. Under these difficult conditions, they must do it, but discipline is necessary." Big applause from us. We're very happy to hear that. We had not had any of the ANC leaders saying that. Uncle JB was the first after a long time. And they left. It was tense. The Maoists in the camp, as you used to call them, felt isolated, and we felt victorious. And it gave us more strength to organize in the camp there. It was even before the party. The party was still illegal, but we started organizing some units of the party, underground units. With all the problems, with the difficulties we had, and it was those units, those units of the party. And those group of young communists, as we were at the time, were not members of the Young Communist League. There was no Young Communist League. But if there was a Young Communist League, we would have been members of the Young Communist League because of our age. So we organized ourselves into some party units there, underground. Then there was a rough handling of the situation by some ANC leaders, because we were running a journal with Chris called Dawn. We started it. That's Chris and myself who started that journal. Chris wangifanga ekhanda because I'm not a journalist. Because he said, "I suggest that you become an editor of this paper." I said, "Chris, what am I going to do as an editor?" He said, "No, we'll talk about it, don't worry." He also didn't know what to do. He was not a journalist. He was not a journalist. So he started running the journal called Dawn. So 3 months down the line, we were told to stop publishing Dawn. Thomas said the Dawn we were publishing was too communistic. They stopped it. So there was no dawn now. It used to come out every Mondays and distributed in the camp there. And then Chris said, oh, let's go and see Uncle JB about this. So went to Morocco to discuss this with Uncle JB. Uncle JB said, leave it, I will handle it. Go back to the camp. And indeed, Uncle JB handled it. In 3 weeks' time, we were told to continue to resume the job. Tuma didn't like that very well, but Uncle JB had spoken. Comrades, many stories can be told about Uncle JB, about Kotane, and about many things. Osiyanqosha isitalo ngapha. Uthi angizokhuluma ngalamakhehle engikwaziyo kodwa manje siyanqosha yena. So it was nice to be with them because you could learn many things. I remember when I told them that I want to go to a learning school. Malume said, I see no problem. We'll arrange that. But make sure that you don't go there before you unite the so-called Maoists and the pro-Soviets in the camp. And he was not laughing, typical of a Malu. He was giving just the orders like a soldier he was not. But telling us what to do, not discussing with us. So make sure that everything is settled in the camp, and we are all there as members of the ANC, not communists or what. But the presence of a communist unit in the camp kept the camp together and the discipline. And it was same members of the Communist Party that led to the convening of a Morogoro conference, which is much talked about. Comrade Blade has everything to boast about when it comes to Morogoro conference, because it was members of the Communist Party there, young as we were, that led to the convening of that conference. Under difficult conditions, it was convened, and the communists played a leading role there. The Joe Matthews of this world, the Mike Hamel, Dadus, and so on. I remember when it was tough in Morogoro conference, things were very bad. Things were very bad. And Uncle JB took the platform. He said, comrades, say everything if you want to say. But if you insult with dignity. No, one thing
Aye, asibonge istalwart sethu. You see, to the members, You see, few we might be here. The members of the media must know that we are rich. We're rich in information. When we have our stalwarts, we have other stalwarts I mentioned, Ubabuesu. We have Ubabu JJ Ujele Bakona, or Professor Khositsile, or Comrade Yassad, they are here. And I think those comrades together, Naboba Bumchal, maybe would be the right people to be interviewed by the media today. You see, good research says Kulumengama secondary sources. Manje, these are the primary sources you can talk to. Comrades, Comrade Marks and Kotane joined the party in the 1920s. Then it was the Communist Party of South Africa. And in the early 30s, both comrades together with Comrade Alfred Nzula were sent to the Soviet Union to study Marxism-Leninism at the Lenin School. There they honed in their political and analytical skills. When they returned to South Africa, they used these skills to argue against the disastrous, ultra-leftist and Eurocentric approach of the then leadership of the party. And you can read this from the famous Kredok letter of 1934. Which also marks the decisive step in the genuine Africanization of the party. Funeka funda ma comrade. Singapolitiki nje ne-common sense nangezilogelo. And Moses Kotane was the longest serving general secretary of the party, 1939 to 1978, whilst Marx served as the chairperson of the party. Comrade SACP, you are the heirs of the legacy of JB Marks and Moses Kotane. You are therefore walking on the footsteps of the giants. Athandu uxolo makomanisi, athandu uxolo makomanisi. Wazanzimathi. Yo. Sibiza wena nzima. Athandu uxolo makomane, athandu uxolo makomanisi. comrades, the General Secretary of the Communist Party, Comrade Blade, will now pay the tribute to the leadership, to the two heroes of the party.
Amandla. Amandla. Long live the memory of Moses Kotane and JB Marks. Long live. Viva the African National Congress. Viva. Viva the SACP. Viva. Viva COSATU. Viva. Viva Sanko. Viva. Malukulu Fasimba YCL Malukule. Viva the ANC Women's League. Viva. Viva the ANC Youth League. Viva. Qina Sasko. Qina. Viva COSAS. Viva. Viva MKMVA. Viva. Amandla. Thank you very much, Minister Nxesi. You are here in that capacity today, I'm told. Let me start by greeting the two families, the Kotane family and the JB Marks family, to say, as the Communist Party, you are very special families to us. Let me also greet the National Chairperson and the National Treasurer of the African National Congress and all the leaders of the ANC who are here. The National Chairperson and the two Deputy General Secretaries of the SACP, Comrades Zogwana, Jeremy and Soli, and all the members of the Central Committee who are here. We are very pleased to say that it's a coincidence we have to break from the meeting of our Central Committee, which we started at 10 o'clock this morning. At least the Central Committee is all here. Comrades Dumo Dlamini, President we COSATU, nabo bonke abaholi be COSATU abakhona la. And all the leaders who are here from our various formations. We can say so many things about these two leaders, but let us also, as the SACP, join in thanking President Zuma and government for bringing the remains of our leaders to be finally laid to rest in a free South Africa. Indeed, the challenge that we have is that this process must not end with the reburials. It strikes us as the party that we have a lot of work to do in telling the history of our revolution, the history of our struggle. You know, the Cubans always remind us that the further a revolution moves away from the period of oppression and repression, the more it runs the danger of being defeated. Because as those who understood what it meant to fight against apartheid start disappearing, it's very easy for younger generations to repeat some of the mistakes that were made before and not to understand where we come from. So it's very important that this history must be told, not informally, and it must be told through our schools and our other education system. Comrade Chair, we are very proud as communists to be associated with this legacy. Kamalumu Kotane and Uncle JB. The SACP is now the second oldest political party in South Africa after the African National Congress. The SACP was formed in July 1921, inspired in the main by the victory of the Great October Socialist Revolution of 1917 in Russia. When it was formed, it was largely a white organization with only T.W. Tibedi as a black African member of the party. Moses Kotane and JB Marks were amongst the first recruits, African recruits into the Communist Party in the late 1920s. These two are an example of the contribution that communists have made. We are saying this today in order to tell a story, not because we want to claim any credit whatsoever. As communists, we don't claim credit for anything. We make our contribution unconditionally without wanting to claim any credit whatsoever. In fact, Comrade Joe Slovo used to tell us that Umalum Kotane was so loyal to the African National Congress. He was General Secretary at the same time of the party. When he was Treasurer Kabaze, he took all the money to the ANC and not a cent to the SACP when he actually went away to raise money. That is why the SACP till today is so poor. But we are happy. We are happy about one thing only, that poor as we are financially, but the ANC is in power today, and we are proud of that. These two leaders also, they played a crucial role in building the trade union movement. We're very proud that there is no other political party that built the progressive trade union movement in South Africa other than the South African Communist Party. And Kotane and JB Marks were the pioneers in building a progressive trade union movement. Today we have a COSATU because of the work that they actually did. Uncle JB led the great mine workers' strike of 1946. But what people also do not know is that at the formation of the Council of Non-European Trade Unions, 1941 or 1943, Moses Kotane was actually chairing that founding Congress, which is one of the predecessor federations of COSATU today. So they belong to the three components of the alliance: the ANC, the Communist Party, and the trade union movement, and served all of them together with distinction and honor. It is very important also to remember that they also played a very key role in building the African National Congress. You know, both the party and the ANC were very weakened in the 1930s. We don't have time to go into the details of that. Both of them nearly collapsed and disappeared completely. But when the party managed to resuscitate itself, not least because of the leadership and the role played by these two, the first thing when the party became strong that they said is that it's of no use to have a strong Communist Party if the ANC is weak. You can't be proud of a strong Communist Party where the ANC is weak. Uncle JP was amongst those who resuscitated a strong ANC in the Transvaal. That is why in 1950 he was elected president of the ANC in the Transvaal, because of the role that he had played. Now, as I say, there are many things. Perhaps one needs to highlight just one or two things before I close with the lessons. You know, we did not plan this because today we were going to be having the remains of these two leaders coming back. But we decided that in this central committee, one of the topics we are discussing is the relationship between the ANC and the SACP. We are going back now to the Central Committee to discuss that in detail. What are the challenges and what needs to be done? Because that relationship between the two is actually the political foundation of the alliance itself. Without this relationship being strong, and there has always been an attempt by our detractors to drive a wedge between the ANC and the South African Communist Party. And we must not allow that. And also we want to say, those who think that going forward we need less of this alliance, they are mistaken. We need more of this alliance going forward, given the challenges that we are facing. We must not think that any of these organizations can be able to go on its own and actually be able to navigate the many challenges that we face today and that we are also going to face. We have done a lot, we have made a lot of progress. Let me tell the media in particular, if Uncle JB and Kotane would wake up today, they would be very proud of the progress made by the ANC government today over these last 25 years. Those who grew up rich, with water inside the house, with electricity inside the house, who were staying in bricks houses and so on, they will never understand what we say when we say the ANC has made lots of achievements, because they grew up taking those things for granted. I always make myself an example that when I grew up in Dambuza in a mud house, I never thought electricity would be able to be put into a mud house. It's only the ANC which taught me that electricity can get into a mud house. And it's very important that we build on this. Chairperson, let me end by just highlighting what perhaps are some of the lessons that we need to learn from these leaders. There is no contradiction in belonging to all the alliance structures. If there is any contradiction, it's because you are half politically conscious. You do not understand what this alliance is about. And we are three different organizations, not by mistake, because we play three different but complementary roles. So those unionists today who want to become the ANC at the same time, who want to become a workers' party at the same time, they are completely mistaken. They will never be able to do that. Now, the rule is, you must respect the decision of each of the organizations that you belong to. And you must not join one organization in order to settle scores with another organization in the alliance. That must be condemned in the strongest possible ways. And we are independent organizations, by the way. Some of the people think, well, because we say the ANC is leader of the alliance, therefore the Communist Party and COSATU are like substructures of the ANC. No, we are all independent organizations. As Lenin would have said, it's only independent organizations that can enter into alliances. If we are not independent, you don't enter into an alliance, you get absorbed. That's why we need these organizations as independent organizations. Who taught us that? It's the example of Kotane and Uncle JB. They perfected that. There was no such thing before them. They were the ones who forged this relationship and taught us how we should be able to do it. Now, we are facing challenges at all times. One of the biggest challenges now we are facing is in COSATU. Weakening and dividing COSATU, it's like throwing mud at the graves of these stalwarts that we are remembering today. Our duty is to go and defend and build a strong COSATU. That is the duty for all of us. We must go and make sure that we protect the Federation, because some of the people who want to destroy the Federation, they speak loudly as if they've got the greatest love of the Federation, when their aim is to weaken COSATU so that workers become more exploitable. Because the only people who will benefit from a weak COSATU are the bosses, it's not the workers. In memory of Umalumu Kotane and Uncle JB, let's go and build a federation in COSATU. But even more importantly, let's go and build our own organizations. They passed away when we did not have state power. Today we have state power. We have added responsibilities. And our task in their memory is that we must combine both our state and mass power in order to drive change in this country. And there is no other alliance that is best capable of leading South Africa to greater heights than this tripartite alliance that they built. They did their duty at the most difficult times. It's up to us to carry the baton and continue to build a South Africa that future generations will always be proud of. And I must say this, a good communist is in the African National Congress. A good communist who is a worker is in COSATU, building those affiliates, so that we are able to unite ourselves and not allow things that will actually divide us. Ziningi izinto esingazisho, ikakhulukazi nina beindaba niyathanda ukuba ogaxekile kuhle kwemisipha, nifuna ukuthi nidiphinishe ingxabano noma uma kukhona ukungaboni ngasolinye ngaphakathi kwethu. In the name and memory of these two leaders, we will defend our organizations and the unity of our organizations. Amandla!
Unono silitate, unono silitate les. Hambana kumanisi, hambani kusat. Hambana kumanisi, amandla. Just one. We are left with two speakers now. Before that, I have keys of a BMW. Inhlekele moto. Awugijima ngayo lokuhlini udlisa kakhulu. Ngazi noma isilahla or yini. But I have keys of a BMW with another bundle. I think these are the house keys, or those who have lost the keys. They were found on some chair. They will come to me. Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, we have two speakers now. The next speaker will be a speaker on behalf of government. And that will be the Minister of Communication. Is it? Am I right? Or Minister of Telecommunication. Usapitekile lo msebenzi uthi tele and communication. The Minister of Telecommunication. Minister Kwele will speak on behalf of government. Sometimes, don't call us to order. I know that the speaker who's amongst us might make us to account on this fine line between government and the ANC as a ruling party. Tell us, what were you doing there? Were you the party, ANC or government, but there's that fine line, Speaker. So we will have the Minister speaking on behalf of government. Ngicela the Gauteng choristers isiphakamise uMinister of Telecommunications.
The families of Moses Kotane and JB Marks, the leadership of the Tripartite Alliance, religious leaders, leaders of all progressive formations, comrades, compatriots, and friends. We gather here today to remember and celebrate the lives of JB Marks and Moses Kotane. This moment is both joyful and poignant. It is a joyful moment because after 50 years away from home, these two African heroes have returned to the land of their birth. They have returned to South Africa that is free and democratic. Yet, we are bound at this stage to reflect on the tragedy of our past, that such devoted sons of this soil should have spent their last years so far from the people they love, and that it has taken so long to bring them home. It is fitting that the remains of the two revolutionaries should return to South Africa together. Moses Kotane and JB Marks were comrades in arms. As leaders of the Communist Party, as a chairperson and general secretary, they worked side by side over many years. They served together in the leadership of the African National Congress and were both deeply involved in the trade union movement. Born just 2 years apart, both hailing from what is now known as Northwest, their lives followed very similar paths. As young men, JB Marks had a number of casual jobs, working as a sharecropper, a laborer, and after he was qualified as a teacher in the mines. Moses Kotane too worked in those few jobs that were available to African people at the time. He worked as a photographer's assistant, a domestic worker, and a bakery worker. It was here that they each witnessed the discrimination, exploitation, and inhumanity to which Africans were daily exposed. It was these experiences that convinced them of the importance of not only organizing the workers to improve their conditions, but also organizing and mobilizing the working class to defeat the capitalist exploitation. It was these experiences that led them both to join the trade unions, the Communist Party of South Africa, and the African National Congress. Moses Kotane and JB Marks became joined in the struggle. Speaking at the funeral of Moses Kotane in Moscow in 1978, the former president, Oliver Tambo, recalled how, once in exile, these two comrades in arms have operated from Morogoro in Tanzania, I quote, sharing a small office and sleeping in two small adjacent rooms, close quotes. It was a mark of their humility, their commitment, and their shared determination to prosecute the struggle for freedom under even most challenging circumstances. Their contribution to the achievement of our freedom is immeasurable. On behalf of the people of South Africa, we once again express our profound gratitude to the families of these fine heroes of our liberation movement. From the depth of our hearts, we thank you for releasing them to the struggle which gave birth to the freedom of all South Africans we enjoy today. To the Kotane and Marks family, this liberation movement, which they loyally serve, will continue to ensure that their sacrifices and your sacrifices will not be in vain. Anything less will be the betrayal of their struggle against indignity, dehumanization of our people. Comrades and friends, the African National Congress has declared 2015 the year of the Freedom Charter. It is the year of unity in action to advance economic freedom. It is appropriate that the remains of these two giants of our struggle should return home this year. The ideals to which they dedicated their lives are reflected in the clauses of the Freedom Charter. The achievement of the economic freedom is an objective for which they fought and for which they sacrificed so much. For them, the national liberation struggle was never about privilege or private gain or personal exaltation. It was a humane struggle against atrocities directed at families torn apart by past laws and the migrant labor system. It was a struggle against the exploitation of the workers in the mines and the peasants on the farms. It was a struggle born both of painful experience and a keen understanding of the economic and political underpinnings of the system they sought to confront. Exposed both to the exploitation of the workers and iniquities of racial oppression, Moses Kotane and JB Marks found in the ideology of the Communist Party the means through which to liberate their people. JB Marks explained how he had long searched for an answer to the question of how to eliminate social and racial hatred. I quote him, Marxism-Leninism opened my eyes to the fact that decisive thing is not national but class distinctions, and that only the working class can fight consistently against capitalist exploitation, rallying all oppressed and disinherited behind it, close quote. Together with Moses Kotane, he understood that the struggle for national liberation could not be separated from the struggle of the workers. It was in the seminal Credo letter of 1934 that Moses Kotane called for the Africanization of the party. He said, I quote, "The Communist Party must pay special attention to South Africa, study the condition in which this country, and concretize the demands of the toiling masses from the first-hand information, that we must speak the language of the native masses and must know their demands," close quote. They were among the most articulate proponents of the relation between the national struggle and the class struggle. They embodied that relationship. Yusuf Dadoo memorable said that JB Marks stood at the heart of the liberation movement. In paying tribute to Moses Kotane following his passing, the ANC said, I quote, "He was a communist, a Marxist-Leninist, and at the same time, a member of the ANC par excellence. He did not support the ANC, but was himself a personification of the ANC, a man who attached so much importance to the national liberation of the African people, especially the African workers," close quote. In earlier days, at a time when there was so much antagonism within the ANC towards communists, it was the patient and tireless engagement of people like JB Marks and Moses Kotane that challenged prejudice and broke down resistance. Madiba later recalled how Moses Kotane would go to his house late at night and they would debate until the morning. In the end, said Madiba, I quote, "I had no good response to his argument," close quote. It was thanks to their integrity, their hard work, their undoubtable commitment to the cause of the people that JP Marks and Moses Kotane earned the respect of even the most anti-communists within the movement. These were leaders who understood that change could only be achieved through effective organization and collective effort. They were party builders and union organizers. They advanced the view that it was the task of the Communist Party to build and strengthen the organized trade unions. JP Marks will forever be remembered for building the African Miners Workers Union into a formidable force. He led the workers' strike of 1946, in which over 100,000 workers went on strike to demand a minimum wage of 10 shillings a day. Brutally crushed by smart regime, the strike was a turning point in the history of the trade union movement. It demonstrated that even the most exploited and oppressed, when properly organized and mobilized, could wield great power. The strike coincided with the revival of the ANC and the start of the new era of mass action and direct confrontation. Comrades and friends, as we confront the challenges of the present, the role Moses Kotane and JB Marks in the revival of the ANC and in the growth of the Communist Party is profoundly instructive. At different times, during the difficult 1930s, both Moses Kotane and JB Marks were excluded from the structures of the party. Yet, they did not abandon the party. They did not seek to destroy its destruction. Instead, they continued diligently and patiently to pursue its aims and advance the interests of the party. Having been restored to their position, they both went on to lead a stronger and a more cohesive party. They were instrumental in the building of the ANC at a time when it had become weak and ineffective. They did this because they understood that no progress could be achieved without the structures that were vibrant, democratic, without cadres that were committed and politically empowered, and without the programs that responded to the needs of the people. Moses Kotane and JB Marks were ready and available at every critical moment in the history of our struggle to do what was required of them. We recall the central role that JB Marks played in the formation of South African Congress of Trade Unions, the involvement of Moses Kotane in the drafting of the African claims in South Africa. We remember the role they each played in the campaign for the defiance of unjust laws and the formation of Umkhonto weSizwe, and in the establishment of the ANC missions in exile. Moses Kotane and JB Marks were internationalists. They identified with the struggles of the oppressed and exploited across the world. They saw the liberation of South Africa as part and parcel of the world anti-imperial struggle. Comrades and compatriots, in remembering and honoring Moses Kotane and JB Marks, we are called upon to safeguard and promote the unity of the alliance they helped to build. A divided alliance serves no one but those who want to maintain the current patterns of privilege and exclusion. A divided working class weakens the ability of our people to advance their rights and improve their lives. A divided trade union movement threatens to render ineffective one of the most powerful weapons that workers possess. Whatever differences we may have today, whether personal or political, they are not greater than the responsibility we have to work together to achieve economic emancipation. In honoring these giants, we must work together to defeat poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Today, these cadres of our movement will be keen champions of the program of radical economic transformation. They would have been at the forefront of the efforts to build an economy that serves the interests of all, an economy that creates jobs, lifts people out of poverty, and contributes to thriving communities. As loyal and disciplined members of the African National Congress, they would have been deeply involved in the policy deliberations and would have paid great attention to the progress of the implementation. They would have had courage to own up to the mistakes and the resolve to correct them. They would have been wary of the trappings of the office and acutely aware of its power to corrupt and divert the cause of our revolution. Comrades and friends, the conditions of struggle evolve. Its character changes with time. The country that Moses Kotane and JB Marks were forced to leave 50 years ago is very different place to one to which they have now returned. They would see profound, meaningful change. There is much they would not recognize, but there is also much they would find familiar. They would see that most whites still live more comfortable lives than most blacks. They would see young men and women unemployed. They will see poverty and hardship in many of our rural areas. They will continue to see the interaction of class and race and gender in the economic and social fabric of our society. But at the same time, they'll also recognize in our people their resilience and determination to be free. They'll recognize the undying resolve of our people to overcome the burden of history and build a better future for all. Comrades and friends, the lives of Moses Kotane and JB Marks reveal that true leadership is about affection, concern, and respect of the masses. They suffered terribly for the work they did. Banned, restricted, arrested, and forced into exile, separated from their families and friends. They never departed from the path they've chosen. They never sought sympathy or adulation from. They saw the hardship they experienced as nothing compared to daily privations of the masses. In everything we do, improving the lives of our people must be utmost. As a generation that has inherited the revolutionary legacy of Moses Kotane and JB Marks, we must remain true to our mission, our principles, and our people. During this year of the Freedom Charter, let the returns of the mortal remains of these great leaders inspire us to return to our best traditions of discipline, service, and unity. Together, we move South Africa forward. Yindele ndlela. Long live the spirit of Moses Kotane. Long live. Long live the spirit of JB Marks. Long live. Amandla. Thank you.
Asibonge ubaba uCwele egameni likahulumeni, uhulumeni owalethwa uMalume Kotane no-Auntie Marks, ngoba kube bungasimsebenzi yabo ngaba sikho la nabanye ke. Sizothatha ke isikhulumi sokugcina. But the message is very clear. We have mentioned the crucial role played by Comrade Marks and Comrade Kotane, resuscitating the ANC in 1937 and their subsequent leading role in building this revolutionary ANC-led alliance, including the SACP and the labor movement. And both comrades, like Comrade Zimande said, there is no contradiction between the ANC and the SACP. Both comrades served in the structures of the African National Congress and also of the SACP, including at one time or another serving as Treasurer General of the ANC. ANC comrades, Comrade Chairperson of the ANC, Comrade TG of the ANC, and all the leaders of the ANC who are here. The alliance you lead emerged out of the heat of a decades-long struggle, culminating into this overthrow of apartheid. Your leadership, therefore, of this revolutionary alliance remains critical as we enter the second, more radical phase of this transition. Ngalo amazwi ngifuna ukuphakamisa usihlalo kazwelonke we-African National Congress ophinde futhi abe yisikhulumi usomlomo waseParliament. That is none other than uComrade Ubaleka Mbete. Asimeni ngenyawo ma-comrades. I-ANC yasetshenzelwa, alala i-ANC yasetshenzelwa, alala yasetshenzwe, halala, alala iyoyo yasetshenzwe, halala, alala iyoyo yasetshenzwe, i-ANC yasetshenzwa, alala yasetshenzwe, ANC yasebelethwa, alala yasetshenzwe.
Ngiyabonga mgcinisihlalo. Ngibingelele ubukhokheli obukhona lapha from all alliance partners that these two giants worked for tirelessly. The African National Congress, the labor movement, SACP then, but now COSATU, as well as what was then the Communist Party of South Africa and now the South African Communist Party. We also greet you and welcome you here as generations that will benefit from these veterans of our movement, who, as we have heard the whole afternoon, were the embodiment of the unity we continue to work on. Yebo ngifuna ukufakaza nami babunzimande ukuthi we insist on a united COSATU. And we say nobody has a right, when these giants have put their lives for so long, to come here at this point and disunite COSATU. City, we are going to work against anyone who is working to divide our labor movement. If for no other reason, for the reason of the history we've been listening to. And in fact, we believe kwenzeke kahle ukuthi in our stories we heard this afternoon need to be known by the generation of the young men who spoke here on behalf of the Marks family. But they need to be known by others and even younger generations. And I have no doubt that they had to both come back precisely so that we would know this history. And in knowing this history, we would know and we would be proud of who we are. Comrades, veterans, comrades, nabo bonke abakhona abahloniphekile. These stalwarts, comrades Moses Kotane and JB Marks, have returned home. Rest among us. They left for exile more than 5 decades ago, at the height of apartheid oppression and repression, as servants of our movement. Sathi abanye bethu, who are much younger generations, when we got to Tanzania, these veterans were already resting in Moscow. But we got to know of them because everyone in that community who had been led by them when they were still alive was talking about them. They were sorely missed. Everyone had a story or a number of stories to tell about how they personally, as cadres very far from home, had benefited directly from being counseled by these veterans. They now return to a free South Africa that was born out of the struggle that they so much cherished. Their dignified and solemn return is yet another milestone in the many years of their selfless dedication to our struggle. As we welcome them on behalf of the National Executive Committee of the ANC and all of us, we say, come. See what South Africa without apartheid has become. Come. See what you have struggled for. Yes, come. Inspire us. Make us stronger. Make us wiser. Make us better cadres. We to whom you have passed the baton of struggle. We join the country in welcoming back these icons who fell in the struggle for our liberation. We receive with warmth and much appreciation their remains that were safely kept for so many years in the caring and comradely bosom of the people of the Russian Federation. We say thank you to Russia. Thank you for standing by us. Comrades Kotane and Marks were indeed two different people who were different but also similar in many ways. And these similarities were forged in struggle. They were the uncles of our movement, Malume, as we called Comrade Kotane, and affectionately Uncle JB, as we called JB Marks. Of course, we know in our culture the uncle is the elder in the family, is the guardian, is the counselor. Those who knew and lived with these comrades will testify, as they have this afternoon, to the fact that they were indeed the guardians of our movement. They united us within and across the entire alliance. We sought their wise counsel, which we valued. They helped create and shape the generation of the Tambos and Madibas. They were the elders that generation, and in fact generation after generation of our movement, looked up to. They both came from the Northwest Province, what we now know as the Northwest, and joined our movement during the trying years of the 1920s. They saw all from one decade to another, from trench to trench, and from one form of struggle to another. They were there during the revival of the ANC and the then Communist Party of South Africa in the 1930s, with Reverend Mahabane and many of the leaders of that epoch. They can tell the story of how the alliance was born, and of course they themselves were the embodiment of that alliance. They were among the multitude of the scribes that have bequeathed us the Freedom Charter, 60 years of which we are celebrating this year. They were active. They were leaders in the core organs of our movement, the ANC, the SACP, and the labor movement. In many ways, through their personalities and the respect they commanded, they helped keep our movement and the entire alliance together, at home and abroad. In boycotts, strikes, they were there. They were in the company of cadres who formed Umkhonto weSizwe. They joined the external mission that made the ANC one of the greatest liberation movements this world has ever seen. Comrade Oliver Tambo said about the two stalwarts at the funeral of Comrade Kotane in 1978 that, and I quote, "We shall never forget that during the period of 3 years ending in December 1968, two political giants of the South African revolutionary struggle, JB Marks and Moses Kotane, comrades in arms for more than 40 years, operated from a small country town, Morogoro, in Tanzania, sharing a small office and sleeping in two small adjacent rooms, now worthy of preservation as national monuments." And I don't know if the SG is around. I believe the CC came here, so he should be here. Because I want to say that because he participates on our behalf in the forum of former liberation movements, this must be noted, what Comrade O.R. Tambo said. Because one of the projects of that former liberation movements forum is to revisit the sites where our struggle was waged. And we have to go back and actually make sure that we bestow the necessary and the relevant honor in the spaces that these comrades occupied, so that we never forget that history. And Africa knows that we also appreciate their role in hosting us during our struggle in difficult times. It was during these trying years that the supreme qualities of leadership of Moses Kotane and JB Marks emerged and made their mark on all the younger men and women who lived, worked, or associated with them at that time. As the SACP put it in its tribute to Kotane also in 1978, I quote, "In the life of every nation, there arise men, and I dare say, and women, who leave an indelible and eternal stamp on the history of their people. Men and I add women, who are both products and makers of history. And when they pass, they leave a vision of a new and better life and the tools with which to win and build it. Close quotes. Yes, Comrade Kotane and Marks were these men and women of steel and character. The two were inseparable and remain inseparable in eternity. They shared their remaining years in Moscow and went on to rest among the greats of the Russian people. Their legacy lingers on, pushing us to do more to move South Africa forward. The relationship between race and class has never been an easy question for our movement, and sometimes even a source of divisions in our ranks. Some deserted us because they thought we were too class-oriented, too close to the working class. Others found us not left enough because we are a nationalist movement, uniting all class forces opposed to colonial oppression. This is the question that Comrades Kotane and Marks understood and taught our movement to internalize. This understanding is at the core of the alliance and why the National Democratic Revolution is far from over. Today, together as a collective, we reiterate Comrade Yusuf Dadu's farewell to Uncle JB when he said, and I quote, "Rest assured that we and the millions of our oppressed and exploited people shall not relent nor waver, but shall continue to work unceasingly as you did for the complete victory of the noble cause of destroying once and for all the hideous system of white supremacy and of creating a South Africa free from all forms of exploitation. We pledge to carry on to the complete victory of our revolution for the final triumph of the noble cause for which you lived, struggled, and died." Close quote. This is our pledge today. Our victory over apartheid will never be complete until poverty, inequality, unemployment, and many other challenges of today are all behind us. This is the struggle for our generation. This struggle calls for unity and cohesion within our ranks across the entire alliance. It calls for a dedicated cadre made of the steel and caliber of Malume and Uncle JB, and many other stalwarts of our movement. In 1994, we set out to transform this country. Now we say this transformation must be accelerated and deepened in the state, economy, society, land, and human settlement. The increasing incidence of racism and shameless attempts to glorify Jan van Riebeeck are all a reminder to us of how much work we must still do to build a united, non-racial nation of our vision. As we engage on the home front, we should not forget the internationalists that Malume and Uncle JB were. As we celebrate this year the 50th anniversary of the historic Bandung Conference that laid the foundation for the non-aligned movement, we must also remember that Comrade Kotane was at that meeting to represent our people. Comrades, today we pay homage to a special generation, to comrades like Josiah Gumede, Dr. Kuma, Dr. Muroka, Albert Lutuli, Yusuf Dadu, Joe Zimpama, Sidney Banting, and many others who remain household names in our movement to this day. We thank this generation and pledge that our victory is far from complete. We will work for a united ANC, and I repeat, we will work for a united ANC, united alliance, and a better cadre, because this is what the struggle of today requires. I urge all of us, individually and collectively, to live this pledge in word and deed. Comrades, if we don't work on unity in each of the alliance components and in the alliance, we would betray all the good work and leadership of these two giants. I thank you.
Malibongwe. Malibongwe. Igama lamakhosikazi. Igama lamakhosikazi. Thank you to our national chairperson, Comrade Balega. She's wearing the two hats. She instructed me that she's wearing one hat, and I'm insisting she's wearing the two hats, and there is no contradiction. The government and parliament are led by the ANC. We've come to the end of our program. I must apologize because I should have made this apology. That in your programs you noticed that the keynote was going to be given by the Deputy President, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, because of the issues of Lesotho. You know that he has been the mediator there. He has to harness that particular process. He has had to attend to that. Hence, we have had to have a minister, Minister Kwele, speaking on behalf of government. We had to pass that apology to the members of the family. Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to thank the government of the Republic for this memorial service. To thank the two families of Malme Kotane and Uncle Marks for being with us, allowing us to share these experiences with them. Let's also thank the ANC leadership for being here, led by the national chairperson, the party led by its General Secretary, Comrade Zimande, COSATU, led by Comrade Stumo, and the membership of this organization, and all of you. But let's thank our veterans who are also here. I'm a veteran, I'm a veteran, ayazana. This memorial service and the return and the reinterment of the mortal remains of Comrade JB Marks and Comrade Moses Kotane, I think, comrades, we all agree that it resonates with the long history of our liberation struggle. And that has been emphasized here today. An ability to take up immediate short-term grievances whilst never losing the sight of the long-term goals of our movement. A strategic approach guided by the need to maximize the principled unity. From all the speakers, the message was very clear. Unity, unity, unity. Comrade Stumo, united we stand, divided we fall. That is the old slogan of the workers. We hope within the challenges facing COSATU today, this slogan is going to be given meaning. Unity, unity, unity. Comrades, the lives of Comrade Marks and Comrade Kotane embodied all these qualities we're talking about. But this story must be told to the working class as a whole and to the workers and all the progressive people of South Africa. Comrade National Chair, Comrade TG, Comrade Hope as Provincial Secretary of the ANC in the province, Comrade Blade, Comrade Mapai, Comrade Stumo. We hope that all the coming activities now of the alliance, not of government, to celebrate the lives of these heroes, workers will be mobilized in their thousands. As structures, you know how to mobilize. Government cannot mobilize. But as structures, we hope that in all those other coming activities, in the various regional memorial services and memorial lectures, we will be able to do that. And lest we forget, we will celebrate their lives. We will remember them. We will never forget them. Three announcements. The first funeral of Malme Kotane will be held on the 14th of March in Pila in Northwest. The second funeral for Uncle Max is the 22nd of March in Ventersdorp. Siyapha kulanda kwakuthiwa ekatere plant. Aba babengafuna amakomanisi. Thirdly, but all the information in relation to this will be made available and will be publicized. The last announcement is that the SACP Central Committee is reconvening in 30 minutes after this. Ndivumeleni ndithi ekupheleni bathe babuyele ekhaya sibamkele ngezandla zoxolo nothando bazophumula ekhaya. Siyathemba ide yavalwa le verse nakwizizalwana abahlali nealliance. Amandla. Long live the spirit of Moses Kotane. Long live the spirit of JB Marks. As we leave, comrades, we will request that we all stand and allow the members of the family to leave first back to the holding room together with the national leadership in front here and the veterans back into the holding room on our left. Ayitsho ingoma. enesikhupha ngayo.